Have you ever noticed someone you love, maybe your father, your neighbor, or even an old friend, seeming just a little more tired than usual? Maybe they're forgetting small things, moving slower, skipping meals, holding on to furniture as they walk through the house. You think they're just getting older, so you brush it off. We all do. But what if those little moments, those quiet changes, weren't just signs of aging, but signs of something deeper? What if the body wasn't just slowing down, but actually speaking to us, softly, subtly, calling out for attention before it's too late? Here's something many people don't realize. After age 75, nearly 99% of all deaths can be traced back to just 5 causes. Not a dozen, not 50, just 5. And most of the time, the warning signs are so quiet, so easy to miss, that by the time we notice, the damage is already done. That's why we're here today. Not to scare you, but to help you see clearly, to remind you that growing older doesn't have to mean growing weaker. That aging with awareness, with intention, can actually add life, not just years, to the time we have left. Because this is about love, about knowing what to look for in the people we care about, and about learning how to respond early, wisely, compassionately, whether it's for your parent, your partner, your friend, or even yourself. In this video, we'll walk through the 5 most common causes of death after age 75, what they really look like in everyday life, why they're often missed, and most importantly, what you can do starting today to spot the signs and take action. And here's something you might not expect. One of these causes doesn't even look like a medical problem at first. It shows up in silence, in absence, in days that feel emptier than they used to. So if you believe that knowledge is a form of care, if you believe that paying attention could save someone's life, then you're exactly where you need to be. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Life. We share practical, heartfelt guidance every week to help older adults and the people who love them live stronger, brighter, and more connected lives. Let's begin. Let's start with one of the most common and most underestimated threats to life after 75. The heart. Think about someone like Walter. He's 81, always had a habit of getting up early, rain or shine. Every morning, he'd stroll around the block with his newspaper tucked under one arm and a thermos of tea in the other. A friendly nod to neighbors, a steady rhythm to his day. Then, one week, Walter wasn't out there, and the next, when asked, he simply said, "Just been a bit tired, maybe I need more rest." But 6 months later, Walter was rushed to the hospital, not because of a heart attack, but because of what had been happening silently for months. His heart was wearing down without a single dramatic warning. His quiet mornings had faded because they were the first thing his body couldn't keep up with. That's how cardiovascular disease often shows up after 75. It's rarely loud. It doesn't always come with chest-clutching pain or dramatic collapses. Instead, it whispers fatigue, shortness of breath, a vague sense that something's off. We dismiss it, saying, "He's just getting older," or "She's slowing down a little." But here's the truth. As we age, our arteries naturally stiffen. The heart has to work harder to push blood through narrower vessels. Blood pressure rises, often silently. Cholesterol builds slowly over time, narrowing those paths even further. The heart gets overworked and it's asking for help. That tiredness that suddenly appears or won't go away, it's not just aging. That tightness in the chest you think is indigestion, that breathlessness after a few steps, that dizzy moment you brushed off, these aren't random. They're signals, early warnings, and families often miss them. We tell ourselves, "He's having an off day," but for someone over CityFem, an off day might be the only chance we get to intervene in time. So what can we do? Start small. Know your numbers: blood pressure, cholesterol. Don't wait for a crisis. Add heart-friendly foods to your meals like oats, berries, dark leafy greens. You don't need a fancy routine. Just a short, consistent walk each day can protect the heart more than most people realize. And maybe most importantly, check in. If your loved one has stopped doing something they once enjoyed, gardening, walking, even chatting, it may not be about mood. It could be their heart quietly struggling. But the heart isn't the only silent danger waiting in the background. There's another risk: even more overlooked. One that doesn't just affect how a person feels, but slowly begins to change who they are. Now let's talk about the second silent force, one that doesn't just take years from someone's life, but slowly takes pieces of who they are. Dolores was 79, always full of warmth. She loved crossword puzzles, Sunday jazz on the radio, and never forgot to send a birthday card until one year she did. Then she began misplacing simple things: hair glasses, her phone, her way around the house. The family brushed it off. It's just age, they said. But when Dolores forgot the name of her childhood best friend, the one she talked about every week, that's when the fear set in. The doctor said it was early-stage Alzheimer's, and though her family meant well, by the time they acted, the disease had already quietly taken root. This is the painful truth of neurodegenerative disease. After 75, the risk of conditions like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's doubles every 5 years. And it's not just about forgetting, it's about the brain slowly losing its ability to organize, recall, and even regulate the body. Inside, toxic proteins build up. They tangle and block communication between brain cells. Simple thoughts become foggy. Speech gets slower, and the body starts to respond differently. 2. With Parkinson's, it might begin with stiffness, a slower walk, or a soft voice. Small things until one of them leads to a life-changing fall. Here's the mistake we often make. Assuming it's just memory, she's having a senior moment, we say, but it's not always that simple. Sometimes the first signs are emotional. A once confident person becomes anxious. A social butterfly starts pulling away. A generous soul begins making unwise decisions or repeats the same story 5 times without knowing it. These aren't quirks, they're changes, and they matter. But here's what gives us hope. While there's no cure yet, early action can still make a difference. Keep the mind engaged: games, conversation, music, learning something new. Fuel the brain with real food: leafy greens, nuts, fish, olive oil, and never underestimate sleep. Deep sleep helps clear waste from the brain like a silent overnight cleaning crew. So if you notice changes in a loved one, don't wait, don't minimize, gently ask, talk, because catching the signs early might give them more time to laugh, to connect, to be fully present. But as powerful as the mind is, there's something else, something just as silent that can bring everything crashing down in seconds. One misstep, one fall, one moment that changes everything. Let's talk about something that seems small but can change everything: mobility, or more specifically, what happens when it suddenly slips away. Clyde was 84, lived alone, independent. He liked keeping his home tidy, doing crosswords at the kitchen table, and watering his plants every morning. But one day, he slipped getting out of the shower. Just once. The fall broke his hip, and something else shifted. 2. After that, he stopped moving as much. The pain made him cautious. He skipped meals. He slept more during the day. Slowly, the man who once took pride in doing things himself grew quiet, withdrawn. Within a few months, his strength faded. So did his spark. Clyde's story isn't unique. After 75, falls become one of the leading causes of death. And the saddest part, many of them are preventable. As we get older, bones weaken, muscles shrink, reaction time slows. Something as small as a loose rug, dim hallway, or slippery bathroom floor can result in a serious injury, if not something worse. But here's the truth. Most falls aren't just accidents. They're warning signs. Maybe it's a medication that causes dizziness, or shoes with no grip. Or maybe it's the body's way of saying, I'm not being challenged enough. The good news, we can take action. Begin with the home. Grab bars in the bathroom, non-slip mats, better lighting. Then add simple movement, chair yoga, balance exercices, short daily walks. Review medications regularly, and most importantly, don't wait until after the fall to make changes. Because one fall, just one, can take away more than mobility. It can take someone's confidence, their routine, even their independence. But losing balance isn't the only quiet threat in the background. There's another danger that often starts with something even smaller: a sniffle, a cough, a low fever that quickly becomes something far more serious. There's a danger that whispers instead of shouts, a threat that doesn't crash in like a heart attack or steal memories like dementia. It starts quietly, just a cough, a tickle in the throat, a low-grade fever. And for someone younger, it's nothing more than a passing inconvenience. But for older adults, it can be the beginning of something life-threatening. Let me tell you about Walter, 81 years old, a retired postman, proud of still taking his dog out for a short morning stroll. One winter, he caught what he thought was a mild cold, a bit of coughing, a slight chill. He stayed in for a few days, drank warm broth, and figured he'd bounce back soon. But within a week, Walter was in the ER, struggling for breath. The diagnosis, pneumonia. His immune system couldn't keep up. What he assumed was a passing bug became a serious fight for his life. This happens more than you think. After age 75, respiratory infections, especially pneumonia, and now RSV, become among the leading causes of hospitalization and death. And what's scary is how easily they're dismissed. As we age, our lungs become less elastic. The tiny air sacs that help us breathe don't clear as easily. Combine that with a slower immune response and any lingering condition like diabetes or heart disease, and suddenly, what seems like a small infection can spiral fast. Here's the truth. For older adults, there's no such thing as just a cold. Symptoms like fatigue, confusion, shallow breathing, or even a mild fever must be taken seriously. They're not inconveniences, they're signals. But there's good news. You can fight back with smart prevention. Stay updated on vaccinations, especially flu, pneumonia, and RSV shots. These aren't just for kids. They're frontline defenses for seniors. Wash hands often, avoid crowded spaces during peak flu season, and pay attention to indoor air, open windows when weather allows, eaux purifiées, and keep humidity balanced. And most importantly, listen. Listen to that lingering cough, that tiredness that's not going away, that moment when your breath feels just a little shorter than usual. Don't wait. Early action can mean the difference between recovery and serious decline. Because not all battles are loud, some creep in on quiet feet, and now we come to something even more hidden, something you won't find on a scan or in a blood test. A kind of decline that doesn't start in the body, but in the heart, in the silence, in the spaces where connection used to live. There's a kind of suffering that doesn't show up in blood tests. No chest pain, no fever, no visible wound, but it's real. And after the age of 75, it might just be one of the most dangerous conditions a person can face. Emotional disconnection. Take Samuel Bachelot, a former teacher, loved by generations of students. His wife passed away 5 years ago. His kids live across the country. Calls became texts. Texts became silence. He started eating alone. Days would pass without a single conversation. And slowly, he began to fade. Not from illness, not from injury, but from emptiness. Loneliness is more than a feeling. It's a silent illness. And for older adults, it's deeply underestimated. Studies show that social isolation increases the risk of heart disease by nearly 30%, stroke by over 30%, and drastically speeds up cognitive decline. Not because people stop thinking, but because they stop engaging, they stop feeling connected to life. And here's what makes it harder. Depression in older adults rarely looks like tears. It often shows up as missed appointments, skipped meals, irritability, or indifference. A person who once cared deeply may suddenly seem like they've stopped trying, but they haven't given up. They're just tired of being alone. When connection disappears, health follows. The immune system weakens, sleep suffers, wounds heal slower, and the spark that once lit up daily routines dims. Still, we assume they're just getting older. We say they like their space, or they're used to being alone, but no one truly outgrows the need for connection. So, what can we do? Start small. A phone call, a short visit, a shared meal. Help your loved one find a local senior group, a walking partner, a neighbor to chat with. Encourage time with grandchildren, with friends, with anyone who brings warmth. And if you're feeling this loneliness yourself, don't stay silent. Reaching out isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because the most powerful medicine for an aging heart isn't always a pill. It's another beating heart that listens, that sees you, that reminds you, you still matter. Ourselves. Maybe you've noticed it in someone you love. They're a little more quiet, a little more withdrawn, not quite the person they used to be. And if you're honest, maybe you felt that shift in yourself too. This isn't weakness. This is what it means to care deeply. To see someone you cherish begin to fade in subtle ways and feel helpless. But here's a truth that's both difficult and empowering. Turning away from those warning signs doesn't protect us. It just lets the decline move in quietly. A small stumble, a forgotten name, a cough that lingers longer than it should, a day without a single phone call. These are not just part of aging. They're signals, gentle nudges from the body and mind, asking for attention, for care. And the good news, you are not powerless. If you're watching this, it means you care about your parent, your partner, your neighbor, or maybe you care enough about your own well-being to look deeper. That awareness, that curiosity is the first step toward action, because this journey isn't about simply living longer. It's about living better. It's about waking up with purpose, walking without fear, remembering the joy of little things like the smell of fresh tea, the sound of birds in the morning, or the laughter of someone you love. And it starts now, not with drastic changes, but with small, loving actions. Pick up the phone, call someone you haven't heard from in a while. Mention that persistent fatigue to your doctor. Go for a short walk. Dust off that book you meant to finish. Try a new meal with heart-healthy ingredients. One moment at a time, you begin again. Because aging isn't the closing chapter, it's a powerful new volume in your life. One that can be filled with meaning, memory, and connection if you know what to watch for and what to nurture. Let's take a moment to go back over what we've uncovered today. 5 hidden causes behind most deaths after 75. Cardiovascular disease, that quiet burden on the heart that too many dismiss as just getting older. Neurodegenerative conditions, the subtle shift in personality, memory, and speech that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. Falls, one slip, one fracture, and everything can change. Respiratory infections, illnesses that seem small but can become deadly without warning. And finally, emotional isolation, the invisible shadow that weakens both mind and body over time. These aren't just facts. They're stories, lives, real people, just like you or someone you love. But now, you know what to look for. You know how to begin. And I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 surprised you the most? Have you seen one of them affect someone in your circle? Maybe even yourself? Please take a moment to share in the comments. I read every single one, and your story may help someone else feel understood, less alone, and more motivated to take action. If this video gave you something to reflect on, or better yet, something to do, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Life, where every week we share compassionate advice, health insights, and emotional support for seniors and the people who care for them. Growing older doesn't come with a guidebook, but together we can turn experience into wisdom and wisdom into well-being. Take care of your heart, keep your mind active, stay steady on your feet, be gentle with your spirit, and above all, stay connected. You're not alone. You're part of a community that sees you, values you, and walks this journey with you.